Greetings, everybody. This is the second part of chapter 4, and I would love for you to watch this video just to prove I'm here. Here's my lovely face, but I'm going to stop that. I'll obviously send you an email to remind you of this. But the first thing I want to talk about is for any of you who have Mac. I did do a little bit of research. Unfortunately, if you have M1, M2, M3 chip, M4 chip now, you're going to have to use Parallel Desktop. And there's a student edition for approximately $50. And as far as I know, you only need the standard version. So just follow this link. This is in Moodle at the beginning of our Moodle course. And just follow this link and you can go right to the website and load it for yourself. And then you would have to load Visual Studio, okay? So I'll let you go ahead and do that. You'll be loading Windows 11 on your Mac. You might need this for other classes too. So unfortunately, Visual Studio, and by the way, we're not using Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio, the full app, will not work on Macs. They tried to do that, but it was not successful. So you're going to have to go with this edition. Otherwise, you have to work at school. Okay? And I'm fine with that too. So anyways, let's go back to our chapter 4 handout. And we left off with the int try parse. Okay. If it doesn't work, then you're going to set a variable equal to a Boolean variable here. This will be or you can just use this whole statement if it's true or false. If it does work, it will parse it out and assign what you're trying to parse out to an integer to this variable right here. Okay, so we're going to have to use that in our assignment. All right, so again, we've talked about implicit conversion. Can be done with even numeric values. In this case, you see that we're concatenating the user ID, which is text, with the int student ID, and this should work. Okay, but there are other things that we can do, and for example, if we want to cast our numeric variable to a string, to a string data type, we can even format it, and these are some of the various formats that are available to you. So just remember, you can go back here and get that. Okay, so we'll try that. Calculations, arithmetic calculations. Again, pretty standard here. Moodleless, obviously you have to remember this is the remainder. Okay, and of course, just like any arithmetic or math calculations, anything enclosed in parentheses will happen first. Multiplication, division, or Moodleless operations as they appear left to right, and then addition and subtractions left to right. So nothing new here for you. You can try these if you like. All right. Unary operators and shortcut operators. A unary operator in C# is an operator that only takes one operand. Okay, so in this case, these are multiple operands, but we can use just one operand for unary operators. Okay, and here's some examples for you. Okay, so positive sign, negative signs, there's only going to be one result. Okay, so and here are some of the more famous ones. Minus minus a, that will subtract or decrement by one. Plus plus b will add one. Okay. Minus a will just change it from positive to negative. And 8.5 mil and 3.4 mil changes this to decimal. Okay. Default for numbers that have a decimal in them is double. Okay. Now, some other ones that you probably have heard of, the plus equals, the minus equals, the times equals, the divide equals, the percent equals. Okay. And basically what that does is, instead of, for example, this is the regular way we use the program. When we wanted to add one to a counter, we would have to add the encounter plus one. Well, here, all you got to do is do plus equals one. Okay. And it's going to add it to encounter. Same thing with decimals. These are very powerful for when you're doing totals and you have a running total. Okay, so again, these are unary operators. They only require one thing. All right, I'm back. So again, you can note these operators, these special operators here, and try them as you please, use them as you please. All right, enumeration. Basically, what enumeration does is it will enumerate something that you're going to use as a constant. So, for example, if we were to enumerate terms here, you are going to basically create an array of terms. Okay, and terms 0 would be this, term 1 will be 60, and terms 2 would be 90. And again, we know that it's zero starts at 0, just like arrays. So you are able to use in that case. Okay, and let's just take now term values. Okay, we could set term values, and then we could set them equal to different values. So this would be 30%, 60%, 90%, or 90, or whatever, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. And you can utilize these statements to get a value. For example, here, you would be making terms t would be this value right here. Okay. Int would be 0, 60, and then if we did terms again, net 30 to string would be this value. Okay. Notice how you do have to use the to string for this, okay? So these are just different ways to utilize enumerations. Can be very helpful. And basically, these are going to be constant values that you can't change. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up our lab activity. And I've already done a bunch of this, so we're going to just utilize it. So you should have been able to, at this point, you should have, you know how to bring up Visual Studio, okay? And I'm going to just go to the completed one, okay? But you would have something like this under your CIS 130 student folder, okay? In fact, let me see if I got mine. So, yeah. Yep. Okay. So we're in chapter 4. So I'm going to bring up my completed. You would bring up your HFC tuition calculator. And let's just run through this right quick. Okay, so I'm going to hit open. And again, you can either bring up the project or the solution. Now, usually this is where all the rest of the code is. It doesn't really matter, okay? So let's go ahead and bring up the project. And we're going to walk through some of these that I think you might need to know about. So while it brings it up, let's take a look. So you're going to have this going on, okay? This is going to be like some of the assignments that we do. You're going to have your text boxes, and then you're going to have your labels that you're going to use for output. So again, we opened up the tuition, and then so notice how we created a text box here, and we'll go look at that. But I wanted you to switch these properties on this controller, this object, okay? And again, we're making it read only. So, and because it starts with a TXT, this time it's going to be, we're going to use a text box and not a label. Okay, it's going to give us access to some additional properties that we wouldn't have in label. Okay, and then we're also going to add this label. Okay, this will be output as well, but this time we're going to make it a label. Okay, and so you would switch these properties accordingly. Okay, all right. Come back to the clear click event to, and we'll talk about these in a second. Okay. All right. So let's go look at our Visual Studio. Hopefully it's opened. All right. Read this. Look at our design first. Okay. So here's our design page. And of course, this will probably take a little bit to load. Okay. Let's go back to our handout. So these are all things you would change in design. Now you can programmatically change these properties too. Okay. And we'll be going over that at a later time. But right now we're going to just use Designer to look at that. If it will ever come up. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. I should put, I can pause this video. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Again, I want you to notice some things here. Notice how this is all lined up. Looks neat. I've actually used, let's see what I used here. What control did I use? Let me bring up my properties window here. It's slowly coming up. Oh, why my computer so slow? Just some of the stuff that I have access to. Okay. Come on. Let's show the property. Let me pause this video for a second and we'll come right back once it comes up. So my properties finally came up and I wanted to show you, I put everything in a group box. You could put this in a panel too. There's different reasons to use either, but I grouped everything together here and I actually made a separate group for this. And this is just its own object, okay? You didn't have to make another group here, okay? Just trying to keep things together. So I didn't want this to go beyond this grouping right here, this group box. That's why I put it in there. And so I made all the necessary changes to it. And notice the one here is this multi-line text box. This allows you to have multiple lines in your text box. And it gives you that navigation bar, vertical bar, okay? So, and then there's some other things that you can do here if you'd like, okay? Now, one of the things we want to do is we're going to modify the clear click event to clear the label you just added, since it will be used as an output label. And then we're going to look at the tab index. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I know you can go to view code, but a really easy way to get to a button event is to double click on it. And that should take you right to the button click event. The click is the default event for a button. And so initially I asked you to change this. We're actually going to be changing all of this whenever we click clear. So we're going to clear out all of our text boxes and our label message. Okay, and that's how you would do that. Now, let me just show you another way you could do this is take text student ID, okay? ID equals empty think it's empty. No, my bad. Let's see, what is that? Oh, blank, blank. No. If you don't know what to do, you can sometimes look up and down for what you're trying to do here. Okay. Again, I don't remember everything. So sometimes you can go here and you can let me see if I can find it. I know I got it in another project, so. But one of the easiest ways, just to Google it, string variable in C#. And string dot empty. My bad. All right. So we could do string dot empty, and it's a method. And so this is another way to empty a string. Is it? So what with my bad. Dot empty. But anyways, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But there's another way to empty these strings out. Let me see if I did it down here. All right. Anyways, I'm not going to waste too much time with that. But there's another way to empty out these strings. Okay. Yeah, it's string dot empty. I was forgetting to put the dot text. One other thing to notice here, and we'll talk more about this, is that when you clear stuff out, you want to wind up on one of your text boxes. And that's what we're doing. We're going to wind up on our very first text box. Okay. Now, another thing that you should know about is setting tabs. Okay. So we can set the tab order, and probably the easiest way is to go here and hit the tab order, and it sets all the numbers up for you. And basically, while these labels don't really matter because you never land on them, and same thing here, you're never going to land on any of these, even though this is a text box. You just have to make sure these are all in order and your buttons are in order. Okay. And we can toggle that back. So, and again, you can use whatever number you want. Okay. Just make sure that this is your last one. This is your first one of things that you can get focused to. Okay. Now, the reason we can't get focused to here is we are not allowing any data entry into this text box, okay? We are making it read only. Let's see if we can find that. Okay. Accessibility, oh, I'm in the wrong one. Okay. Oh, I'm in the form right now. But while we're here, we have put the accept button to be the button calculate, okay? And so this button calculate is your accept button. Let me change this. All right, so these are good now. All they have to do is be after these. Okay, but we're going to toggle out of the tab order simply by clicking on that. Okay, and let's click on this box. Okay, and if we look at this, it's set to read only. So again, we're not going to have a tab stop here because it's read only. Okay. Now, to set the default button for the form, you go to accept button right here. And the accept button on this whole form is going to be so if you hit enter, it's going to do a calculate. Okay. So that is going to be your basic accept button. So it won't clear things out by default. Right. And we'll mess around with this a little bit as we run it. Let's go back to our handout. All right, so we've set the accept button to calculate. Now let's talk about the form load event, okay? When a form loads, the form is initialized to display to the user, but potentially some preloaded data, okay? The HFC tuition calculator application needs a HFC tuition information text box control pre-fill with the correct dollar amounts for fees and credit hour rates. This will be done in the form load event. So we're going to view the form load event by double clicking on any white space in the form. Okay. And we're going to insert the following text. Now, notice the escape sequence, which for a new line is \n. And you've seen this before in Python, you've seen it in C, C++, okay? And so this is the code that we're going to put in. So let's take a look. I've already done this, so let's just double click on any white space on the form. And this brings us to the form load event. So whenever you double click on that, it's going to do that. Now, another way to have a new line is just take the environment dot new line. So that'll create a new line for you. And so anyways, all this information is going to be preloaded. And then we've created a string here, okay? And notice that the string value is, indent this. We've initialized the string, and it's only going to be active. It's only going to have method scope, okay? And so when we come in here, it's going to be a new string every time we come in here. And that, so every time the form is loaded, it's going to be a new string. And so, and then we set all of this. And this is, we concatenate it all into one big line. And these, of course, are a new line. Now we could have put in, this backslash n, okay? And that should work just as well. Okay, I've commented it out. So let's go ahead and try running our form and see what happens as it loads. So let me bring it over to that screen. So this is what we have, and you can see that it's loaded all that information. Okay. We have a little problem here. Our form needs to be a little bit larger to include that. Oh, I must have put the wrong n in. Let's try that again. So let's exit out. So we need a forward slash n, not a backslash n. So let's try that. Let's see if that works any better. And let's see if it works. No, it didn't like that. So what did I do wrong? Let's go back to our handout. What's a backslash n? Okay. For whatever reason, it did not like the backslash n. So, and now I'm going to mess with that just a little bit. Okay. But you can see how we've set all that information. Okay. Then finally finishing the tuition calculate button, we would double click on the calculate, declare local variables. We need 3 numeric variables for the text box control for numeric input, a decimal variable for to calculate tuition amount, and a constant variable for values that will not change. Okay. We're going to assign the text box controls containing the numeric data, and then we're going to calculate accordingly. So let's double click on the calculate button and let's see what that will look like. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio. Let me switch this over to, should be a backslash n, should work. I'm not sure why it's not working, but hey, I've had problems before. Oh, okay. And we have our plus sign there, so we're good. All right. Anyways, well, we can always bring this back. But if we go back to our form design and we double click on the calculate button, you're going to see all the stuff that we did. Created constants. You can do parsing as long as you know it's going to work. Okay. And so you have to make sure it's going to work. If it's not going to work, you might want to use try parse. And I can tell you in this circumstance, it may not work. Okay. So here we're using a format for a string. Okay. And yeah, this should all work for us. So this is a message we're going to display. Then the last thing, we assign it to the label. Okay. So this is all the code that you would be utilizing. All right. So, and then finally the click button. Because we only have one form in our application, we can use the this dot close method for this is what form you're in. So this is a form method, and you can close the close is a method of form. All right. So this is how your HFC calculator would work. Let's try it one last time. And we'll call it done. Okay. So, again, you want to try things out. Okay. Brett. Oop. Oh, I got my tab order is not working. Definitely not working. I got to fix that. This isn't working. So we're going to fix a few of these things. So it's 12. So we'll do what I used to pay per credit hour. 15.00. We'll just say 20 here. And if we do calculate, we can see what my tuition is. Okay. All right. So there would be some things I need to clean up on here. My tabs and my and I would have to put that. I'm not splitting that appropriately for some whatever reason. The slash n is not working. So let's close that down. So to fix now the tab orders. Now, interesting enough, you can go and you can set the tab orders in your design properties. And so if that tab order thing isn't working, you can go here and look at tab, index 2, make sure that's the first one, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Make this 13, or you could just 14, 16, and finally 18. The reason I left one number in between is because I might want to put, if I was programming, I might want to put something else in here. Right. And remember what I did here, you want to make sure you line up everything. So in the way you can line up here is you can format and align. Okay. So anyways, and then the last thing I wanted to change is I want to go on my form load, and we're going to just put that back. All right. We know that this should work. I don't know why \n. Oh, I could, you know what I could have done? Might have been able to do it right here, but Anyways, let's go ahead and run this and see how it looks now. I like to do this so that you can get an idea of how I'm thinking, and you can see that this works. And then if we tab now, tabbing seems to work. Okay. And it just circles back around. These are non-tab stops because this is read only. This is a label. Labels are never tab stops. All right. So that's my program. Let's finish up this chapter. Okay, the math class. Now you can look in your book, or you can look online and see what the math class, what's available to it, what operations are available. So what we can do is we can use a math class to round. There's a method to actually round our tuition and to uh, to two decimal places. Okay, so we can round this. You know, so if it's if it was tuition was for $30 and that 1.125 cents, it would round it up to 1.3. Okay. And so that's something that we can do, and we'll take a look at that. Another thing that we need to be we need to pay attention to. So let's say that a user is working on a form, clicks a calculate button. If the user sees that they've had entered incorrect data, then they would have to go back to the input control and make the necessary changes. So when this scenario occurs, we should be able to clear when the user makes any adjustments to an input control. How? The text box control called text change. This event is fired anytime characters are changed. So we're going to go try that. So for each text box, there's going to be an event for that. So let's go back to our program and take a look at that. Right. So the best way to get to that is we'll just take a look at one. Let's say right here. Okay. Here it's not that important. Okay. So if I go here and look at the code, I go here and look at the code. Okay, there is no code for it. Okay, and that's good. But if we go here, it's going to bring up the code behind. And oh, maybe I didn't do this. Okay. Let's just take a look. Don't. Oh, I got everything selected. That's part of the problem. All right. So, well, let me take a look at this. Yeah, basically what has happened is I already had event in here. So in other words, if you go to this, if you go to this lightning bolt, these are events for this object. In this case, it's for the whole form. But if I, let's say I click on one of these, I had something in here for text change, which is the default for that. So if I double click on that, it creates an event for me, and then I can do, I can clear that object. I think it's LBL message, dot text equals, all right. So we can clear it out. So, and I'll just show you how this works. So if I run this, I'm only going to do one. And so it's going ahead, it's going to run this. And I'll show you, it's kind of cool how this works. So obviously, if we type in the information here, okay, we see the tabs now are in correct order. So credit hours 15, credit rate, let's say 15. Yes, that's how old I am. We'll say $20. If I hit calculate, it says revenue, whatever, okay. So could you imagine I'm only paying that much money for 15 credit hours? That's what I used to have to pay. Now, if we change this, it disappears, okay? So that's what that's how you can do the text change event. And again, notice when I go here, okay, so I'm going to go back to my designer. Okay, so if I click here, which I'm already on, and under the lightning bolt, you see what event and what method is going to run for that event. So, and SQL, I mean, C# does that automatically for you. Okay. Again, we can go to the code behind and we can see how that looks. Okay. Here I'm formatting my string. You could format it a different way. We could have also rounded it. Okay. So, and if we go back to our handout, we could see that the rounding would have been look something like this. Okay. I'm not going to do it right now. But anyways, all right. Nulls. So we need to talk a little bit about nulls. So a null value really means nothing, nada. Okay. And I can tell you in data processing, you have to learn how to deal with nulls. Okay. So when you put a question mark after the data type, then that says that this value can contain nulls. Okay. And same thing for any of these above things. Terms, even we've created an object called terms. We can make those null too. So you can look this over for yourself. There are ways, this is a way of not causing an error. If quantity is not null, then the value is returned. If it is null, then a -1 is returned. Okay, so you don't want your programs blowing up because of the wrong data types. Then you take a look at this. This is the different precisions. I'm not going to go over that. I'm going to let you work with that. And just remember, this is probably the most normally used. It's a default. So, and you're going to be fine with it in most cases. Okay. All right. So that is chapter 4. Now let's just go a little bit again. For you Mac users, just go ahead and get parallel. I don't think there's any easier way to do it. Now for our assignments, okay, let's just look at it right quick. This isn't due for another week and a half. So, and just remember for your assignments, basically what you're going to give me is the zip file of that whole environment. Okay. So we're going to do a toll chart. That's the first thing you're going to need to do. And you could just put that in the folder of your project and I'll be able to see it. Okay. You're going to create some user inputs, some user outputs, and some calculation logic. And just go ahead and just follow this. Okay. Really not a whole lot here. Just follow that and this assignment will be worth 30 points. And so it's due, I believe, on the 22nd. All right. So that's all I got for you. So have a good weekend and I will see you on Monday.